Whether you're on a noble quest to save a kidnapped princess or looking for some sweet revenge after a tribe of barbarians burned your village, story is at the heart of any good adventure. My name is Nixon, and today we take a look at over 800 survey responses to the question, how do you want story and lore elements to shape your Hytale experience?
Designed for comfort, built for performance, the Onyx gaming headset combines the best of both worlds. Forget the flashing lights, the Onyx headset is all about quality. Enjoy high-fidelity audio and all the features you want as a gamer. Pluggable performance. Immerse yourself in the game.
Let's kick things off with the most talked about topic in the survey. Out of 800 survey responses, 121 of our respondents wanted the story aspects of Hytale to be an optional experience, and for good reason. The sandbox genre typically encourages creativity, exploration, freedom, and personal development. As players progress, the way that they play helps define who they are. There isn't one single direction that players need to take, and the sense of achievement and success can occur throughout any part of the game. Looking at one of the most popular sandbox games, Minecraft, we see players get the sense of achievement by finding diamonds for the first time, surviving your first night roaming around the world, building incredible contraptions with redstone, building unique structures, and perhaps finally defeating the Ender Dragon. Some players may not ever go and defeat the Ender Dragon, but that's okay, because they have that freedom to choose. Achievement is often in the eye of the beholder, and by keeping everything optional, you ensure that achievement can be truly defined by the player. Throughout the survey, we saw a common thread, a request to make Hytale boundless. These players don't want to be forced into doing any quest or main story missions that they just don't want to do. These respondents are worried that a story will ruin that sandbox feel, and most importantly, take away their freedom. For those who don't want story at all in the game, these respondents offered up a few suggestions. First off, they suggested that before players load up the world, they can choose to turn the story on or off. Another solution would be to have two separate modes, one for a story-based adventure and the other for a survival-based adventure. Even though there are some players who may not want anything to do with the story, others can't wait to turn over every rock, read every street sign, to piece together Hytale's lore. Based on your responses, the overarching theme is investment. You want to be invested in the world, and more importantly, the characters. If we look at some of the most iconic RPG adventure games, one thing is constant: iconic characters. Allies and enemies that you just can't help but care about. That's what you want in Hytale. On top of that, fans are looking for a story that breaks out of the predictable, hero foretold by prophecy storyline. Much of your requests tied story elements to moral decisions that help shape the world around you. Games like Fable have paved the way for this type of system. A player's actions have consequences, and over time, a player would begin to form their own identity and influence events small and large. A great idea that was brought up in the survey was the idea of multiple endings based on a player's decisions. Now, we're assuming there is a sort of classic story arc in the system, but it could really give players a sense of identity if their actions shape the climactic point in the game. Creating a living world, while no easy task, gives players the freedom to fill in their own narrative, and give each player a unique experience different from everyone else. Players want to be able to go to their friends and talk about how they were able to save a Quebec village from Terrorks, team up with Varen to take over Orbis, or just say that they built a farm away from all the chaos. When it comes to investing in characters and story, in my mind, there's no greater game than Telltale's The Walking Dead. As you play to try and survive the zombie apocalypse, players are tasked with crafting relationships and making choices that begin to shape how the season will end. We're not saying that Hytale needs to model their gameplay off a Telltale game, but there is something to be said with taking actions and suffering the consequences. Now, what would happen if Hytale's story had no ending? Well, that is what a couple of our respondents are hoping for: a story with no end. They want to see Hypixel constantly adding to the story. Maybe the final boss is Varen, but after you defeat him, you learn that he isn't truly defeated. Hypixel then could add a new update where Varen is back to take his revenge, or a new villain arises where you must seek out Varen to help destroy this enemy who threatens Orbis. Players just don't want it to be like Minecraft, where the Ender Dragon is the last boss you can fight. Players want constant challenges and bosses to defeat. Hytale could take a play out of the World of Warcraft playbook and change the narrative periodically to introduce new characters, new storylines, and new experiences. Finally, respondents wanted the story to be based on exploration and discovery. An open-world game that captured that spirit of this idea was The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. Typically, open-world games have a big map and lots of things to do, to the point where it becomes cluttered. Breath of the Wild replaces this with the joy of exploration. You can find a route up a cliff, stop to watch the sunrise, or listen to the whistle of the wind while critters scurry through the brush. The map is free of icons and only gets filled up with the waypoints a player sets. This simple change means that exploration is encouraged and players aren't forced to choose activities based on a set of icons. This sort of open-ended discovery could work well in Hytale and could help set the stage for story elements and lore. Moving away from the story, you guys have asked for a great side quest system. Side quests that are not just fillers for the game. You want side quests to feel rewarding in their own right. Just look at how The Witcher 3 does side quests. Oftentimes, the mini-stories are better than the main campaign and introduced players to colorful characters you would never know existed unless you wandered off the beaten path. Of course, some players skip through all the dialogue in The Witcher 3, but there were always twists or turns that tried to throw off players' expectations. The developers wanted every side quest, big or small, to be memorable, and we can see that working for Hytale as well, but only time will tell if the team is interested in pursuing a system like this. Since we're talking about side quests, we thought it'd be fun to dive into some of your great ideas from the survey. One player offered up the idea of rebuild quests, where players would have to use the creative tools to help factions reconstruct destroyed buildings. In the same vein, another idea was to help build defenses for the Quebecs. Players would be given a certain amount of time, and after that, a wave of Turorks would come to try and destroy the village, putting your defenses to the test. Another great idea was more of an open-ended side quest, where players would promise to find a Quebec's family spear that's in a cave somewhere in Zone 3. However, the Quebec has no idea where the cave is, and players would have little direction other than a few simple clues. Finally, some problem solving. One suggestion offered multiple solutions to the same problem. Barons need you to rescue some of their trap friends, however, they don't have an escape plan. Players would need to figure out a way to free them. They can sneak around killing enemies in the shadows, dig under the cell and execute a more peaceful plan, or pull off something different entirely. You guys had a lot of ideas for side quests, and we want to hear more. If you've got a quest idea you'd like to share, be sure to leave us a comment in the section below. We love reading your feedback and hearing your creative ideas. For some, story and quests are just not enough. They want to be able to dive even deeper into the world of Hytale. Lore helps players immerse themselves into a gaming world, and there are countless ways to seamlessly integrate backstory into a title. The most common response was to have lore books similar to Skyrim's lore system. The Elder Scrolls games do a tremendous job adding backstory for famous people, factions, cities, and landmarks. Everything has a history, and the games do a great job giving players the option to dive deeper if they want. Books aren't the only way Skyrim's story is told. NPCs also play a big part of the narrative through the use of interactive dialogue. You guys believe that this should also be the case in Hytale. NPCs would offer clues about the world, provide backstory to certain characters, and could even help uncover new points of interest or quests. But only if players are curious enough to talk to everyone, not just the main quest givers. Finally, I wanted to discuss some mechanics that players want to be implemented when it comes to story and lore in Hytale. First off, for the modding community out there, the hope is that story and lore is completely customizable. The team at Hypixel has made creation a pillar of the game, and we have no doubt that the team will give players the tools to craft incredible adventures. It's just a matter of how expansive those tools really are. Another great idea was to have players' actions affect how factions treat the player. Start to align yourself with the Quebecs, and the Turorks will attack you on sight. However, continue to show you're a friend of the trees, and your good deeds will spread far and wide, and Quebecs across Orbis will lend you their aid, whether it be exclusive shops, combat allies, or something else entirely. The idea of NPC factions has already begun to take shape in Hytale, but there's no telling how that system will play out once the game finally releases. It's a great opportunity to give players the choice to align with the group they identify with most, and another way to create a sense of identity within the game. As we can see, there are a lot of expectations for Hytale's story and lore. Noxy has already confirmed that there are 90 plus pages of lore in Hytale so far. Creating a sandbox style game with this much backstory presents the team with a daunting challenge, but also an incredible opportunity. We could go on for hours, but for now let's keep the conversation going in the comments section below. Let us know how you want fantasy and lore to work in Hytale, and be sure to include your ideas for side quests and factions. You can also join me, Kodiak, and 450 of our closest friends on the Game Gurus Discord, where we talk about Hytale and other great games. My name is Nixon, and together with the Game Gurus, we can strive to reach the next level.